The American dream is the idea of freedom and opportunities for success and growth. As a result, the United States has become one of the most diverse countries, becoming a home for over 50 million immigrants.
Over 4.2 million of those are Filipinos and Filipino Americans, whose ancestors have traveled to start a new life in the U.S. in the 19th and 20th centuries.
In 1898, the U.S. paid Spain $20 million to annex the entirety of the Philippines. Having had their freedom and rights taken away, Filipinos began to immigrate to America in the late 19th century. They came to the United States to obtain freedom, safety, stabilities, and opportunities that could not be offered back in their home country. There were a number of push and pull factors that contributed to Filipino immigration to the U.S. Specifically, some push factors consisted of persecution, fear, natural disasters, poverty, and high rates of unemployment. The environment of the Philippines was harsh with occurring typhoons, tsunamis, and earthquakes. Occurrences such as the 1911 Mount Tall eruption resulted in 1,335 deaths and caused destruction and homelessness. In addition, the 1930s brought high unemployment rates, which discouraged the opportunity for career advancement. The health system was also deeply underfunded and declined even more so when the skilled health professionals moved to more developed nations such as the U.S. What further contributed to push factors was the repressive and corrupt political system of President Ferdinand Marcos, who controlled the media, limited freedom and liberties, as well as arrested rebellion leaders and activists. However, the U.S. also drew Filipinos in with its enticement of new beginnings. Filipino immigration came in three waves for the purpose of gaining an education and/or furthering their study, joining to serve in the U.S. Army, and to be part of the nursing industry. Soon enough, less than a tenth of Filipino immigrants were laborers, and 2/3 were professional and technical workers. In addition, the environment in the U.S. was stable, and there was no disease or hunger as compared to the Philippines. America overall provided a safer and more stable life for Filipinos, with education and employment opportunities.
Smallest wave occurred when the Philippines was under jurisdiction of the Spanish East Indies, ruled by Mexico City. When they came to America, they worked as slaves or workers, anything that would give them a new home. The first recorded Filipino settlement took place in St. Malo, Louisiana, where Raymond Reyes Lala became the first Filipino-American citizen and made history. In the 1800s, the Filipino-American population began to increase exponentially because the Philippines became a territory of the United States. They originally arrived to fill in for agricultural jobs and domestic services or just to work for money. They also wanted to escape the power hand of President Ferdinand Marcos, the 10th president of the Philippines. Filipinos fought for America in many battles like the Battle of New Orleans and the U.S. War with Spain because they saw America as their new home. However, America did not see the Filipinos as citizens. During the Great Depression, Filipino Americans became a target of racial prejudice and violence. The Watsonville riots was a period of racial-based violence on Filipino American farmers by local residents who opposed immigration, all taking place in Watsonville, Santa Cruz County, California. On top of that, they were also losing their jobs and homes. An act titled the Philippine Independence Act was an act meant to keep Filipinos out of America and keep them in the Philippines. It ruled that only 50 people were allowed to immigrate per year, forcing a lot of the Filipinos to stay in the Philippines. As for the third wave, this wave took place after World War II, and the Filipinos who served in the war were granted citizenship if they wanted to be American, and most took that option. About 10,000 Filipino war fighters gained American citizenship, and 16,000 Filipinas came due to the War Brides Act, which allowed the wives of the fighters to become citizens as well. As for the fourth wave, the Immigration and Nationality Act was passed in 1965, which abolished all the current immigration laws, allowing all the Filipinos to immigrate freely. Thousands of Filipinas came to fix the shortage of nurses the U.S. had, and men fought in the battles. The Philippines became the largest source of legal immigration to the United States from Asia. Since 1970, the Filipino population has grown nearly 7 times, from 336,731 to 2,364,815, making up almost 1% of the national population.
Since 2019, Filipino Americans were noted as the third largest Asian origin group in the United States at 4.2 million Filipinos. As of last year, they were reported to make up 18% of the Asian population in our country. Today, they are settled towards the West Coast. More recently, Filipinos are mainly found in California and Hawaii. Filipino immigrants are known to have strong English skills and have much higher college education rates than the overall foreign and U.S.-born populations. They are also more likely to be naturalized U.S. citizens than other immigrant groups, have higher income and lower poverty rates, and are less likely to be uninsured.
As many Filipino immigrants did come to the U.S. looking for new opportunities, many Americans weren't as welcoming as expected. The majority of Filipino immigrants faced racial discrimination and prejudice when they moved to America. Perceived as threats to the American livelihood, they were seen as inferior and were given cheap labor jobs. In between 1900 to 1935, Sakatas, who were Filipino migrant workers who worked on plantations, experienced racial discrimination and cultural oppression while working on the plantations. Also, other Filipino groups who immigrated to work on farms in California experienced racial discrimination as well. As socially they were seen as inferior, there were also some political laws that were made against the immigration populations. There were changes in the immigration policies that did help the immigrants, such as the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, which allowed Asian residents to get naturalized and become citizens. But beneficial laws were not always the case. The anti-miscegenation law enforced racial segregation within marriage. People of different races were not allowed to marry each other or have any intimate relationships. Furthermore, many migrant workers were often forced to learn and speak English.
The freedoms found in America provided opportunities for a new life for many, including Asians, Pacific Islanders, Hispanics, Europeans, and more. Although there were a number of trials and tribulations, each of these people has shaped America into the diverse culture it is today.